This is a week we've been waiting for. This is the week that they have stopped making She-Hulk episodes. It's over. And this is the last time I have to talk about it unless they bring her back for some reason, which I can't imagine they will. But Dan, Roland, you both watched the whole show. And
It's true.
how'd it go? How'd it end?
I
Ramolo.
binge watched it. I know we've been doing week for week.
Yeah.
So I'm caught up and I have an opinion. But Dan, you've been bottling this in badly, but you've been bottling it in.
No,
So
no, no, no. It's
it out.
Give it to a straight Dr. Dan.
I was speechless like for a good 5-10 minutes after I finished watching it because it was like, what the frack did I just watch? Was sort of like what my mind was thinking, and I was like basically speechless. I'm like, I really don't know what to think about this, and it wasn't even because I actually knew some of what was going to happen in the episode before I
Yeah.
watched the episode, so it wasn't even like some of that was surprising. But even still, I was like.
What specifically was so baffling about it?
we
Well,
getting
there's
spoilers?
there's Kevin. Kevin was baffling.
What's Kevin? Who's
You
Kevin?
know what? Let me tell you exactly what Kevin is. Kevin is Kevin is sorry. Knowledge
Knowledge
enhanced visual interconnectivity nexus.
Nexus.
Yes. Kevin.
That sounds like it means nothing.
No, it's meant to be a stand-in for Kevin Feige, except apparently in the Marvel Cinematic Universe's meta fourth wall breaking and going onto the Disney lot version of Kevin Feige's office. Kevin is a robot, apparently. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh shit. Whatever. It's spoilers at this point. It's too late. I'll put it
I
out.
gave a verbal.
Yes, it's too late.
Or not a
But
verbal. I didn't give a
spoiler
verbal.
warning in case
No, I
you
did.
just
Why would
whatever.
you want to take credit for this show?
Roland, I've been bagging on this show, it feels like, for the last 2 months. So how about
Has it only
you
been
give us
2
your
months?
thoughts? I
Yeah.
I have some thoughts
So
about
my
the overall
thoughts
season,
is
but I'll sit back and watch what you have to say
yeah.
or listen.
So here are my thoughts. First of
Okay.
all, Dan, you're ridiculous. That's my going thing. The show is fine. I watched it. It's adorable. I like literally that's all it is. It's this dumb, cute show. I explained it
dumb.
as like yeah, it's nothing to like really make your brain work.
That's for
it's
sure.
yeah, it's just something to put on. It's a sitcom without actually having to use the rules of sitcoms. It's having kind of like a story, and it's connecting things. It's having cameos, and it's whatever. And I don't know. It's kind of like for me, it was almost like a superhero and PG or sorry TV-14 version of Fleabag. Honestly, there's like some little like
Fleabag was such a better show.
no. Yeah. Let me
Wasn't Fleabag
elaborate, 'cause
Fleabag like
I don't want
TV-14
to
anyway?
compare this to Fleabag because that's a totally different level.
Yeah.
But like it's
Unfair comparison beyond the fourth wall breaks.
yeah. But that's kind of like how it was just like it's just kind of like a peek. It's like a little nod, it's a little joke.
Sure.
And I don't know. I enjoyed it. Everybody's always giving it crap for like it's not having story, it's not doing this, or it's being too generic. Even though honestly, most of superheroes' upbringings and like how they're made is very generic. There's a formula. There's a formula for everything. You can only do so much, apparently, after being decades and decades in writing. And
Well, how many times have we brought She-Hulk to the screen? Is this...
I think it's the only time.
Yeah, and like you could do better, couldn't you?
Andrew, all right, why do you say that?
Because as we were discussing prior to this show, I just find that when you put politics into a show, or you try to politicize moments within a show, you cheapen it. You make it something that can really only exist in the time that it's being made. I think they flattened out a lot of characters, and I think beyond their treatment of men, I'm not fond of at all. The way that they brought back other heroes was kind of worthless, and honestly, it's been an exercise in mindlessness, as you said. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing about this that would make me recommend it to somebody other than to maybe hate watch it one night.
And that's fine. It doesn't have to be for you. None of
It's
this
not.
has to be for you. I
That's
think that's
true.
we,
No,
we try to make a big deal about that. Um,
who's it for?
Personally, I thought it was dumb. It was fun. It was whatever. It wasn't something that I had to like really think about. Nothing was really nail biting. And there's a lot of things that they were trying to make relatable, even though she turns into a 8 feet, 7 feet, you
Yeah.
know, fighting
Well,
green machine.
I guess that's what's so weird about it is like they're trying to make it relatable, but clearly I'm not the audience for it. And yet MCU has always tried to be mass appeal for everybody. And it's like, okay, so who are they relating to? And it's like women who are in the same life situation or same position as what's her name? Jen? Is her name Jen?
Jen
Jennifer
Walters.
Walters.
Jennifer
Yeah.
Walters. It's like, okay, so you're in your 30s and you're trying to have a career and all men are terrible and you just have all these other problems you don't want to worry about and suddenly you
Not all
into
men.
a situation.
Let me make
Okay.
that clear.
Who's
Pug,
who's who?
Who's like
Pug
the one
is played
exception
by
to the rule.
Josh
To be fair,
Segarra.
But
He
to
is
be
awesome.
fair, that's like him and Bruce Banner are maybe the only two examples. Well, and then they bring in Daredevil. But all
And
of
her
those
dad.
people are like, well, other than Josh, like the other two
A
people are
loving
clear
parent
cameos.
relationship that is very rare
I
in
love that.
superhero.
But Miss Marvel had
Is
it.
it?
Miss Marvel had it. That was great to see.
Peter Parker had Aunt May and Uncle Ben. They're not his parents.
Yeah, but his parents
Again,
were dead.
good example.
Oh,
The
good
one thing that
relationship.
that bothered me about the show more than anything was like, and Jessica Gao, who's basically like the lead writer on the show, she told Variety this in an interview after the show's finale aired this week, that this show is like literally a fuck you to toxic Marvel trolls. And and to be honest, I don't mind doing that. Marvel has always sort of liked to interact with their audience and like through their content. And it's sort of part and parcel of what the MCU has always been. That's not what bothered me. What bothered me was this show went out of its way to kind of focus around like the toxic culture. And I
I
guess maybe
think
my expectation going into a She-Hulk show was like I wasn't gonna watch a show that was trying to almost solely at times comment on how maybe the viewing audience is going to react to the show rather than telling a story that we can kind of immerse ourselves into. So
absolutely.
I was never quite able to suspend my disbelief. Like, for example, I
Well, that's the
watched
thing
Top
with
Gun
fourth
this
wall
week,
breaks is that they're
right?
a reminder that you
Not even, but
like
not
real
even
life.
doing the
There's
fourth wall
that
breaks.
wall.
Like, that was what the show was doing all the time without even breaking the fourth wall. Like, when they did it, it was more direct. But like, for example, like the person who ends up being revealed as Hulk King. The whole idea of this dude, I mean, the idea that I know in real life there's examples of like these groups of people who sort of like, kind of come together for their shared hate of, I don't know, in this case, they generalize it to the point of we just hate females. That's how they refer to them, females in power. And I was like, the nuance was missing. You could make that same point in a
Yeah.
much more nuanced manner, and here it's like they had to like make it very in your face, like
I also
intelligentsia,
think
misogynistic
it's
men,
disingenuous and
females,
it's
you know.
wrong to make a show with the intention, as she said, to literally be a fuck you to the audience. Like that's not entertainment. And
Personally, I've always been a fan of that kind of content, so that might be why we differ. My favorite endings are when the director almost just gives a middle finger to you. Like, I don't want to give some
it's
spoilers, but there's this movie
it
called
can be done. It can be done.
Yes.
But this is a character people have wanted to see for a while, and clearly, if you're making this with the intention of putting of putting off your audience, it's not the same thing as a choice to have a wild goose chase and something that doesn't make any sense and like a little giggle with a middle finger at somebody. But
Mhm.
to produce an entire series just to be, just to kind of stir the shit, since we got the language warning up,
Yeah.
you know, I just think that's a bad instinct as an entertainer.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
again, I would be okay if they were doing all of those things, but they weren't sidetracking themselves from telling a good story of
Yeah.
the main character. Like, for example, there's a fourth wall break in this last episode where she says, like where she's talking to literally, not even a fourth wall break, she's talking to Kevin, the
Yeah.
knowledge or whatever nexus. Um, whatever the E.A.V.N stand for. She's just telling him just this, like, just as I'm trying to like, just as I'm starting to settle in as being both the She-Hulk and Jen Walters, like all of a sudden now we get into this big like finale fight sequence thing that the MCU likes to do with their shows, and I was like, I did not feel like that's where this episode was headed in the beginning in the first place. Like this was going to be a very character focused, because they sort of hinted at it, but then all of a sudden we're going in five different directions. And then to me, like one thing that I really like, I would point this as a comparison. You watch a show which I believe is like probably one of the best sitcoms to be made in the last like decade, and that's Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is got basically the same runtime per episode as this show. And as a sitcom, like it had the right pacing, like everything moved quickly. They were able to get in subplots. They were able to have like an A story, B story, even a C story sometimes, and
Mhm.
within 20 to 30 minutes, like you got something that felt like a full meal. And none of these episodes, especially this last episode, the way it ends, it's so non-conclusive. And I know Marvel shows have been doing this a lot, so it's not surprising, but it's incredibly frustrating when you watch the last episode of what could literally be the only season of the show we get, if they want to take her to the movies or whatever that happens, or even if we do get a second season. I'm like, there was no sense of satisfaction at the end of this episode because you didn't even like, and some of that is a bit nuanced. Maybe to some people, they were like, okay, she kind of at this point, this was her origin story, and we get it now. She's both She-Hulk and Jen Walters moving forward. But to me, that's not what it felt like. It just felt like now she's going to another court case. We still didn't quite resolve the Hulk King storyline. She's going to now like basically the court case where he's gonna get litigated and all that stuff that he did, but there was no conclusion to it. And the
I
other
feel
thing
like
that I'm
that's
going to
part of
point
the
to,
formula.
Yeah.
no, but
Here's
here's the other thing about the formula. Can I make a real? This is something
yeah.
that bothered me because this is going to come back to bite Marvel in the ass down the road. They critiqued a lot of things that they themselves have done in their previous shows and movies, where like all of a sudden the last episode of the show becomes this big fight sequence and like big action set piece, but they here pointed at it and said that's not the right way to do things, and then changed it up literally, like plucking the Hulk out of the scene, changing the lighting, and like pointing to how the VFX budget, oh, the VFX artists have moved on to a different project. No, that's not how that shit works. And then we hear the Black Panther music. No, VFX are teams, like there's multiple VFX houses and they're usually working on multiple projects at the same time. Anyway, the point being, they pointed out a lot of these situation problems that they have themselves created for themselves before, and now that the audience knows that that you've done this stuff wrong,
Yeah.
they're not going to spare you the next time you do that stuff again. So you're only
Uh-huh.
making your life harder for
That's a good
every
point.
other MCU show going forward.
That's a good
Like
point.
that was bothering me too. Yeah, sorry, I'm big
Um,
diatribe there.
just to sort of take a step back here, I've noticed that a lot of the content about She-Hulk performs really well, and usually it's people, shitting on it.
Yeah.
And I, now that I have the context of what the writer said, this being a big fuck you to Marvel fans, toxic Marvel fans. That's, you just created a whole imaginary demographic there. But um, you know,
Well, there are toxic fans, and absolutely like Star Wars, Marvel,
don't,
but
don't even get me started. I'm just
yeah,
saying, it seems like the brand strategy behind this whole series was to troll. They trolled fans, they trolled commenters, they trolled us into making us talk about it, and they put objectionable things in there, like Megan Thee Stallion twerking and all of these
Which some people enjoyed,
ridiculous.
but not me.
Yeah, but I mean, anybody expecting a Marvel show uh, and MCU consistency was probably triggered by this and trolled, and that's what this is. It's not self-awareness that brings you along for the ride. It's, as you said, it's a big middle finger to the audience and to
Mm.
people talking about it. And so I'd like to give a big middle finger back to it.
Literally or
Okay.
figuratively, I don't. Okay, I guess
Yeah.
it's figuratively.
Well, like I said, we're all entitled to our own opinion. I personally think that they did a good job. I think the message came across, whether you understand it or not. It's up to you. But I think the whole point was they predicted that no matter what they do, no matter how thought provoking it was going to be, there was going to be that group. There was always going to be hate. There was
But
always going to be
wouldn't that
stuff
be
like
like a
that. No
small
matter how
minority?
well the main actor Tatiana did, which she did fantastic, by the way. She was incredible, super funny, very quirky, very witty. And I mean, they write this whole plot and kind of talk about like, hey, we understand you guys have been complaining about this and that. And there's a lot of problems that we're still working with. And it's just a very in your face way. If you're going to do a fourth wall break, no matter how sly you do it, it's in your face. That was always the whole point. When they were doing, plays where the fourth wall actually comes from, the actors would like even like kind of gesture toward the audience, literally being in your face almost. So I thought it was good. I didn't think it was the most thought provoking thing, and that's okay. You can have dumb, fun content. You don't have to have these
Well,
amazing things.
I'm
I
glad
just,
you had fun. Um, Dan, I think you thought it was dumb,
Oh yeah,
and
can I just
I
quickly add
yeah,
something to this?
sure.
What you said, Roland, like I understand that like this is dumb fun and it's addressing like no matter what they did, some people were not gonna like it or be trolls like troll the show. I get that, but like that's always been and continues to be a very small like maybe a vocal minority, but a minority nonetheless. And the problem that I have is when it's a vocal minority, by addressing it in such a central way to the premise and how every episode plays out in the show, what you're doing is you're giving them more of a platform than they ever had before, and they're going to troll you regardless. So by definition, you also realize that even if you did things the way you did it now, you're still going to get trolled. But only difference now is you gave them a bigger platform and a lot more like meat on the bone to pull from, in a manner of speaking. It's like it's I just that's why I always felt like the show should just tell the story that it wants to tell without like doing it in a way that's literally always pointing to the fans who are going to troll the show or like not like it simply because it's focused on a female-led superhero. I mean, I love Miss Marvel because it was an earnest story that did not do a lot of this stuff, and it was focused on a female character who had a very unorthodox origin story compared to every other Marvel character. And yeah, a lot of people did not like it. The show did not do nearly as well as some of the other Marvel shows, but you know what? To me, I look at that and say, well, that's just the society we live in, and we're going to progress over time. I don't look at that as a license to then go and give that vocal minority a platform and only make like things worse because not it's like I don't want to go into the whole like I don't want to bring up any other like analogies to like other kind of things that happen in our lives, like when whatever. I'm not even gonna go there. But the point being, we shouldn't be giving a vocal minority a bigger platform only to then continue, because they're gonna do what they're gonna do regardless. The only difference now is now it's you made it more mainstream, and part of that is maybe their
Well,
intent was let's have a conversation about it and let's tackle it in a more mature way. But
yeah.
it
I
wasn't
mean,
cleverly written enough
this
for me to like start that conversation.
this is
Yeah.
this is another exercise in the Ghostbusters reboot strategy, I think, of getting clicks, getting, a bunch of negative publicity so that people have to check it out. And, there was no negative marketing campaign for Miss Marvel. They earnestly put that out there and they said this is different. And it didn't do well. It's just it's a matter of, are people gonna click on it and watch it? And rage gets clicks, so
Yeah.
so I think that's the world we're in right now. Final thoughts? Do you think it'll come back? Do you want to see it come back? And yeah,
I think just to end it,
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
end it. Um, the thought, this say what you want about the plot, but I was there for the characters, and I thought the characters were what I always came back to. I thought they were very funny. I love the relationships that were happening, especially with like Jennifer Walters and her like close circle, especially as she goes into the new law
That was the
firm.
fun part.
I very
I
much
liked it.
enjoyed that.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Dan, one final sentence about what your final opinion on this is.
I just think they've commodified the Hulk and anything relating to the Hulk to the point where it's butchered to no end, and I really don't like that about the MCU at this point because they're they're adding more Hulks before they can figure out how to like get the CGI to like the quality that the original Hulk had. Not to mention,
Gotcha. Well,
I don't
maybe
know.
we'll get
I'm
like
not
a
looking
Full
forward to more
House
Hulk
style
content.
show with all the
Yeah.
Hulks in one big happy family.
Yeah.
I certainly hope so. If you have something else that you're envisioning, if you like the show, if you hated the show, let us know. We'll talk about it. And if your comment is really compelling, we may even respond to it. So thank you for watching.